When someone rejects us, our natural instinct is often to react, whether with anger, sadness, or an attempt to prove our worth. But sometimes we choose a different path: silence. We say nothing, we do nothing, and we walk away as if the rejection didn't matter. On the surface, it seems like we are unaffected, but in reality, this silence can have a much deeper impact than any words ever could. Silence after rejection is not just an absence of words, it is a statement in itself. It creates an empty space that the other person is forced to fill with their own thoughts, doubts, and regrets. When someone pushes us away, they might expect us to react, to fight back, to ask for another chance, or to seek an explanation. But when they receive nothing but silence, it leaves them in uncertainty. They begin to question their decision, wondering if they made the right choice, or if they let go of something valuable. This silence becomes a psychological weapon, not necessarily in a way that seeks revenge, but in a way that unsettles the mind of the one who rejected. When a person is met with no resistance, no begging, and no emotional outburst, they start to feel the weight of their own actions. They begin to wonder why there was no reaction. Did they truly mean nothing? Was their presence so insignificant that the other person simply walked away without a word? These thoughts can be more painful than a heated argument or a pleading conversation because, in those cases, at least there is engagement, a sense of importance. But silence makes them feel irrelevant. Moreover, silence forces self-reflection. The person who rejected might have been certain at the moment of their decision, but as time passes, they start analyzing their own behavior. Did they act too harshly? Did they misunderstand something? Could things have turned out differently? This endless cycle of thoughts creates an emotional disturbance that words often fail to achieve. Words provide closure. Silence, on the other hand, leaves everything open-ended, making it harder to move on. Silence also carries a dignity that words sometimes cannot. Instead of lowering oneself to arguments or desperate explanations, silence maintains self-respect. It shows that you value yourself enough to not beg for someone's acceptance. This can be a powerful realization for the one who rejected you. They may have expected you to chase after them, to seek validation, but when you don't, they start feeling the emptiness of their own decision. At times, silence is mistaken for indifference, but in reality, it is far from it. It is not a lack of emotion, but rather a controlled response. It shows emotional maturity, the ability to accept rejection without making a scene, without creating unnecessary drama. It is a sign that you are secure enough in yourself that you do not need to force someone to stay in your life. And this kind of confidence can be unsettling for the one who thought they had control over your emotions. However, silence should never be used as a tool for manipulation. It should not be about making the other person suffer, but rather about maintaining your own peace. It is a way to detach, to heal, and to move forward without unnecessary negativity. If the person who rejected you truly values you, they will feel your absence. They will understand the impact of their decision, not because you told them, but because they experienced it. In the end, silence after rejection is more powerful than words because it leaves a lasting impact. Words fade, arguments get forgotten, but the feeling of someone simply disappearing, of no longer being accessible, stays in the mind. It makes them wonder, regret, and sometimes even wish they had made a different choice. That is the true power of silence. It does not need to be spoken to be heard. Rejection is often seen as a sign of power, as if the one who rejects holds control over the situation. It creates an illusion that the person making the decision is stronger, more confident, or emotionally unaffected. However, this is not always the case. Rejection does not automatically mean strength. Sometimes it comes from fear, insecurity, or an inability to handle emotions properly. People reject for different reasons. Some do it because they genuinely believe it is the right choice, while others do it as a defense mechanism. They might fear commitment, uncertainty, or vulnerability. Instead of confronting their emotions, they choose to push others away, convincing themselves that this is the best decision. But in reality, this does not show strength, it shows avoidance. True strength lies in facing difficult emotions and making decisions with clarity, not in running away from them. In many cases, rejection is a result of insecurity. A person may reject someone not because they do not care, but because they feel unworthy. They may believe that they are not good enough, that they cannot meet expectations, or that they will eventually disappoint the other person. Instead of risking failure or emotional pain, they choose to reject first. This gives them a false sense of control, making them feel as if they're the ones deciding the outcome rather than waiting to be hurt later. However, avoiding emotional risks is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of fear. True strength is in confronting these insecurities and allowing oneself to experience emotions fully. Another reason rejection does not always signify strength is that sometimes people make impulsive decisions based on temporary emotions. Anger, frustration, or misunderstandings can lead someone to push another person away. In the heat of the moment, rejection may feel like the right thing to do, but later, regret often follows. A strong person takes time to think before making such decisions, ensuring that their actions align with long-term wisdom rather than short-term emotions. Additionally, rejection can stem from societal pressure or external influences rather than personal conviction. Sometimes people reject others because they feel pressured by their family, friends, or societal expectations. They may want to make a different choice but fear judgment or consequences. In such cases, rejection is not an act of personal strength, but rather an act of surrendering to external forces. True strength would be standing by one's beliefs and making decisions based on what truly feels right, rather than what others expect. Moreover, rejecting someone does not necessarily mean a person has moved on or feels no emotional attachment. In some situations, people reject others because they believe it is the right thing to do, even if their heart does not fully agree. They may convince themselves that the other person is better off without them, or that their absence will ultimately benefit the situation. But making a painful choice does not always mean strength. Sometimes it is just an act of self-denial. Strength is found in honesty, both with oneself and with others. True strength in relationships, friendships, and life in general comes from communication, understanding, and the ability to handle emotions in a mature way. Simply rejecting someone does not make a person stronger. What matters is the reason behind that rejection. If rejection is based on thoughtfulness, wisdom, and genuine well-being, then it may be justified. But if it is based on fear, insecurity, or avoidance, then it is not an act of strength. It is an escape. In the end, rejection does not always mean the one rejecting is in control. Sometimes it is the one who was rejected who ultimately finds strength. They learn resilience, grow from the experience, and move forward with dignity. Strength is not in rejecting people, but in handling emotions with maturity, honesty, and courage. Silence is often mistaken for indifference, but in reality it carries immense power. When words are left unsaid, they create a void, an emptiness that forces the other person to fill in the blanks with their own thoughts. Silence, especially after rejection, raises unanswered questions that can linger in the mind, creating uncertainty, regret, and self-doubt. Unlike spoken words, which provide closure, silence leaves everything open-ended, making it far more impactful than an immediate reaction. When someone expects a response, whether it be anger, sadness, or even an attempt to repair the situation, but is instead met with silence, their mind starts searching for answers. They begin to wonder why there was no reaction. Did the person not care at all? Were they expecting the rejection? Or perhaps were they never truly invested in the first place? These thoughts can be more disturbing than any verbal exchange because the human mind naturally craves resolution. When we do not receive it, we begin to create our own narratives, often overthinking the situation to the point of distress. Silence can make the one who rejected feel as though they made the wrong decision. When a person rejects someone, they often anticipate a certain response, maybe pleading, explanations, or even arguments. When none of these come, it can be unsettling. The absence of a reaction can lead them to question their own choice. Did they misjudge the situation? Did they let go of someone who truly valued them? Were they expecting a scene that never happened? And does that mean they miscalculated the other person's feelings? These thoughts linger, making them revisit the decision they thought they were certain about. Moreover, silence can turn into an emotional burden for the person who initiated the rejection. When there is no response, they are left to deal with their emotions alone. In contrast, if a conversation had taken place, they would have had a clearer idea of what the other person felt. Silence, however, leaves them in doubt. Did the other person accept it too easily? Are they truly okay? Or are they simply hiding their feelings? Are they planning something in response? This uncertainty can be more mentally exhausting than dealing with a direct confrontation. Silence also gives power to the one who is rejected. While words can sometimes be manipulated or misinterpreted, silence is mysterious. It cannot be argued with, nor can it be taken back. It forces the other person to face their own thoughts without distractions. In this way, silence becomes a mirror, making the one who rejected confront their own feelings without any outside influence. This can lead them to question not only their decision, but also their own emotions. In some cases, silence can even create a sense of loss. When someone walks away without a word, it makes the person left behind feel as though something significant has disappeared. They might not have realized the importance of that presence until it was completely removed without explanation. This sudden emptiness can be more painful than a spoken goodbye because it leaves room for endless what-ifs and unresolved emotions. However, silence should not always be used as a weapon. If used with the intention of causing pain, it becomes an act of cruelty rather than self-respect. But when used as a means of maintaining dignity and inner peace, silence can be a powerful tool. It allows a person to move forward without unnecessary drama while also leaving an impact on those who expected a reaction. In the end, silence does not mean absence. It means reflection. It makes the other person think, wonder, and sometimes even regret. Unanswered questions have a way of staying in the mind much longer than words, making silence one of the most profound responses a person can give. It does not just leave the other person thinking, it makes them feel, and that in itself is more powerful than any argument or explanation ever could be. Life is a journey filled with ups and downs, victories and losses, happiness and pain. No matter who we are, where we come from, or what we believe, one thing remains certain. Emotional battles are an inevitable part of life. These struggles shape us, test our resilience, and ultimately help us grow into stronger individuals. The emotions we experience, love, fear, sadness, anger, and hope, are not weaknesses. They are proof that we are alive, that we feel, and that we care. Every person at some point faces emotional turmoil. It could be the pain of rejection, the grief of losing a loved one, the frustration of failure, or the loneliness of feeling misunderstood. Some battles are visible to the world, while others are fought in silence behind closed doors. Regardless of their form, these emotional struggles define us in ways we may not always realize. They push us to our limits and force us to confront our deepest fears. One of the most challenging aspects of emotional battles is that they often feel isolating. When we are struggling, it may seem as if no one else can truly understand our pain. We might even believe that we are alone in our suffering. However, the truth is that everyone, no matter how strong they appear, is fighting a battle we cannot see. The person who always smiles may be hiding deep sadness. The one who appears confident may be battling insecurities. The one who is always helping others may be struggling with their own demons. This realization teaches us to be kinder, not only to others, but also to ourselves. Emotional struggles are not signs of weakness, they are signs of strength. They prove that we are facing challenges rather than running away from them. A person who experiences heartbreak, disappointment, or failure is not weak. They are someone who dared to care, to dream, and to hope. It is only through facing emotional difficulties that we learn resilience. If we never experienced sadness, we would never truly appreciate happiness. If we never faced failure, we would never strive for success. Growth comes from struggle. Many of the world's greatest achievers, thinkers, and leaders have faced immense emotional battles. They have experienced rejection, failure, and doubt, yet they emerged stronger because they refused to let their struggles define them negatively. Instead, they use their pain as motivation to push forward. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. Emotional battles are not meant to break us. They are meant to build us. One of the keys to surviving emotional struggles is learning how to process them in a healthy way. Bottling up emotions or pretending they do not exist only makes them heavier to carry. Instead, acknowledging our feelings, expressing them, and seeking support when needed can make a significant difference. Sometimes, talking to a friend, writing down our thoughts, or simply allowing ourselves to feel without judgment can bring relief. Emotional pain is real, and just like physical wounds, it needs time and care to heal. Another important lesson is that emotional battles are temporary. No matter how intense the pain feels in the moment, time has a way of healing even the deepest wounds. Life moves forward, and with it, so do we. The things that once felt unbearable eventually become lessons, memories, or stepping stones towards something greater. It is during these difficult moments that we must remind ourselves that pain is not permanent, and neither is the situation we are facing. At the end of the day, emotional battles make us human. They remind us of our ability to love, to feel, and to overcome. They are proof that we are growing, learning, and evolving. Instead of fearing emotional struggles, we should embrace them as part of our journey. They are not the end of our story, but rather chapters that lead us to become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate individuals. Silence is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful weapons a person can use. It carries an unspoken force that can influence minds, shift dynamics, and leave a lasting impact. Unlike words, which can be argued against, misinterpreted, or forgotten, silence is undeniable. It forces the other person to think, to question, and to feel the weight of their own actions. When used wisely, silence can be more effective than any argument, confrontation, or emotional outburst. One of the most powerful aspects of silence is that it creates uncertainty. When someone expects a response, whether it be anger, sadness, or an explanation, but is met with silence instead, they are left wondering. Their mind begins to race, trying to fill in the gaps, questioning what the silence means. Did they make a mistake? Did the other person not care at all? Or is there something deeper happening? This internal struggle can be more unsettling than any spoken words because the human mind naturally craves closure. Without it, doubts and regrets begin to take over. Silence also holds the power to shift control in any situation. In conflicts, arguments, or negotiations, the person who remains silent often holds the upper hand. When one person stops reacting, they take away the other person's ability to provoke, manipulate, or gain satisfaction from a response. This shift in power can be frustrating for those who thrive on drama or conflict. They may try harder to get a reaction, but when they fail, they are left feeling powerless. In this way, silence becomes a tool of self-control, allowing a person to maintain their dignity without getting dragged into unnecessary. Another reason silence is so powerful is that it forces reflection. When people are confronted with silence, they have no choice but to turn inward and examine their own thoughts and feelings. Words can distract, but silence creates space for deep thinking. Many times, when a person is left with nothing but their own thoughts, they begin to see their mistakes more clearly. They may come to realize the impact of their actions, question their decisions, or even feel the weight of guilt. In this way, silence can be a teacher, one that does not lecture, but still delivers a profound lesson. Silence can also be a sign of strength. In moments of pain, rejection, or betrayal, choosing silence over emotional outbursts shows immense self-control. Instead of wasting energy on people or situations that do not deserve it, silence allows a person to walk away with grace. It sends a message that they do not need to prove anything to anyone. This kind of quiet confidence is often more powerful than any words could ever be. It shows that a person values their peace more than pointless arguments, and that kind of strength is undeniable. However, silence should not be confused with avoidance. There is a difference between using silence as a tool and using it to escape difficult conversations. When silence is used to manipulate, punish, or control others, it becomes toxic. True power comes from using silence in a way that maintains respect, both for oneself and for others. It should be a response of wisdom, not a weapon of cruelty. Ultimately, silence is a language of its own. It speaks volumes without saying a word. It can create doubt, shift power, encourage reflection, and demonstrate inner strength. When used with intention, it can be more persuasive than any argument, more impactful than any speech, and more lasting than any words spoken in haste. Silence does not mean weakness. It is often the greatest sign of power a person can possess. Silence is a powerful tool that, when used wisely, can bring clarity, peace, and influence. It is often said that words have power, but silence, when used at the right moment, can be even more impactful. It can save a person from unnecessary conflicts, protect their dignity, and allow them to observe situations more carefully before reacting. However, silence is only effective when used in the right way. If used carelessly, it can cause misunderstandings, distance people, or even become a form of emotional harm. Learning when to speak and when to remain silent is an essential skill that can shape relationships, decisions, and personal growth. One of the most valuable uses of silence is in moments of anger or conflict. When emotions are high, words spoken in frustration can cause irreparable damage. In such situations, choosing silence instead of reacting impulsively allows time for reflection and self-control. It prevents unnecessary arguments and stops conflicts from escalating. A person who remains silent in the heat of the moment shows emotional maturity and strength, demonstrating that they are not easily provoked or manipulated by negativity. Silence can also be a form of wisdom in situations where speaking may not lead to any productive outcome. Not every argument deserves a response, and not every person is worth explaining oneself to. Sometimes, people provoke others just to get a reaction. In such cases, silence becomes a shield against unnecessary drama. Instead of wasting energy on explanations that will not be understood or appreciated, choosing silence allows a person to walk away with dignity. It sends a clear message that they are above the negativity and refuse to engage in meaningless disputes. Another way silence can be used wisely is in deep conversations or negotiations. Listening more and speaking less allows a person to understand the other side better. When a person remains silent, they have the opportunity to observe body language, tone, and the emotions behind the words being spoken. This helps them respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Silence in such moments becomes a tool of influence, making the other person feel heard while also allowing space for deeper understanding. In relationships, silence can either strengthen bonds or create distance, depending on how it is used. When used with wisdom, silence can give space for reflection, allowing both people to process their emotions and thoughts before speaking. However, if used as a way to punish or manipulate someone, silence can become harmful. The silent treatment, when used to control or hurt another person, can damage trust and communication. Instead of solving problems, it creates more misunderstandings and emotional pain. Therefore, silence should never be used as a weapon, but rather as a way to bring clarity and peace. Silence is also valuable in personal growth and self-reflection. In a world filled with noise and constant distractions, taking moments of silence allows a person to connect with themselves. It provides the mental space needed to think, evaluate choices, and understand emotions. Through silence, a person can gain inner clarity and peace. making better decisions and improving their overall well-being. It teaches patience, focus, and the ability to find answers within, rather than always seeking external validation. However, while silence is powerful, there are times when speaking up is necessary. Silence should not be used in situations where injustice is taking place or where speaking up could help someone in need. Knowing when to remain silent and when to speak up is a skill that requires balance. It is important to use silence to maintain peace, but it is equally important to use words when they are needed to bring about change or protect oneself and others. In the end, silence is neither good nor bad on its own. It depends on how it is used. When used wisely, it becomes a source of strength, wisdom, and self-control. It allows a person to handle situations with grace, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and gain a deeper understanding of themselves and others. Learning the art of using silence wisely can lead to better relationships, improved decision-making, and a greater sense of inner peace.